How's it going? David from Comic Book Investments. So it's now 2023, and I, as a comic book dealer, what do I think 2023 is going to be like for the comic book industry? I've been doing this since full time since 2009, so a long, long, long time. And for you that don't know, my dad was a comic book dealer, you know, before I was born. So I grew up around it my entire life. Um, he, of course, then retired, kind of, then went back in the industry, but, he ended up working at Heritage, all this kind of stuff. He retired when I was in high school. So I have a lot of experience with comic books. But one thing I do not have is a crystal ball. I cannot predict the future. I can only use the information that's in front of me and kind of guess what is going to happen. I mean, no one really saw, 2020 coming along. No one really saw, 2022 is a little easier to guess. So as a comic book dealer, I think 2023 is going to be a pretty interesting year, as was pretty much the last 4 years have been interesting. Prior to 2020, like around 2018, a little bit in 2019, and before, pretty much the comic industry was very stable, very, just slowly going up over time. Nothing really major happening. You can look at all the graphs; it's pretty crazy. And then all of a sudden, 2020 happens, and then books go up by 3, 4x within a few months. Then 2022 happens, and everything starts crashing and falling. Inflation is at all-time high. I think when I predicted 2022, I thought it was going to be a slowly increase up, but kind of going up and down. Really, not really gain or loss. I can only use what's in front of me, and at the time, you know, the Fed said, "Oh, inflation's not a big deal. You have nothing to worry about." The government was saying, "Oh, inflation, nothing to worry about. Oh, nothing to worry about here. Don't look over here." All this kind of stuff. So I can only go off of the information that I had in front of me, which is basically all lies. So my predictions, of course, were off. And then it was very interesting towards the end of 2022. The Fed said, "Oh, we're kind of out of the woods, of this inflation thing. It's not going to really be too many rate hikes and all this kind of stuff." And then lo and behold, they're like, "Yeah, we're going to do more rate hikes." And earlier and a few months ago, they're saying like, "Oh, we don't really think it's going to get, really the hikes are going to get above like 4.5% for 2023." And now they're saying it's going to be between 5 and 5.5. So who knows? I mean, either they don't know, either they're dumb, or they're just not telling us the truth. I don't know what it is. But nonetheless, it makes it very hard to predict what's going to happen when the information I'm getting is faulty. So I will give my best guess and prediction. And here's the truth: no one really knows. So my prediction could be way off or it could be right. If it's right, then I look like a genius. And if it's wrong, then who knows what it is. Man, I look like a fool. But nonetheless, I think what's going to happen is I think things are going to be pretty bad. And in terms of the economy, I've been reading articles saying that, remember, like, what was it, about a year ago when there were signs everywhere and people were just begging people to work, right? They were like, "Oh, just come work for us." And, I remember it was something like McDonald's was like giving away, or it was AT&T or something like that, giving away free iPhones if you just applied. That's how badly they wanted people to work for them. And there's all this interesting articles about silent quitting and this, and people don't want to work anymore, all this stuff. So there was like this, lust for having, any type of worker, like places paying way, way over, minimum wage just to get people to come and work for them. Now, what I'm seeing is the opposite, because I've been reading articles saying that unemployment is going to start hitting, start going up actually quite a bit. That's because there's a lot of layoffs. What happened is all these, and if you're wondering what's this have to do with comics, well, the economy really has to do with having extra money to spend on comics. So there's been a lot of layoffs, especially in the tech world, where people are making a lot of money, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and the tech world's just laying off left and right, left and right. And then what's going to happen is more companies, not the tech companies, are going to start laying off people. You're going to see more layoffs. then those people are going to try to find jobs. There won't be that many jobs that will pay what they want to make, so they might have to step down, or they'll live off of unemployment and try to weather the storm. Who knows what will happen with those people? So you're going to see maybe there's houses that they once bought where they were making $300,000 a year. Now all of a sudden you're making nothing, and you can't afford the mortgage payments. So now more homes come for sale, which then, I don't think it'll be bad like '08, but supply and demand. All of a sudden, if you have my first house that I bought in my neighborhood, because it was during like '09 I bought it, right? Like when it bottomed out, there was, out of 20 homes, there was like 6 that were foreclosed or for sale or something like that. There's homes everywhere, like 6, just like all in the same neighborhood. But yeah, so we'll see more homes coming up, which will drop the price of homes. But I don't know how much it will drop it, because here's the difference between '08 and now. Number one, people have ridiculous low interest rates. I have, on one of my houses, I have a 3%, and another one I have 2.3%. So I ain't selling those. Those things are basically free, interest-wise. So I ain't getting rid of those. And on top of that, I have so much equity built up because of this massive influx, that happened. So a lot of people in '08, you would buy a house and you were pretty much underwater within like a year. But now, since home prices shot up so much and people have such low interest rates, they have a lot of equity built up. So they can weather the storm. So they can be like, oh, okay, my house is going down, but I still have $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 of equity. And on top of that, it's like I have a ridiculously low interest rate. So I'm not giving up this interest rate. I'm going to figure out a way to make it work. So that's why I don't think it'll be bad as '08. So long story short, what I think is going to happen in terms of comic books is comic books are always, you need extra income. You can't eat or live in a comic book. I mean, I would love to, but you can't. So therefore, it's usually extra money. So if you don't have extra money to spend, then prices will start going down because people need to sell them, things throw up in auction. Usually, I was going to make a video on this, but I didn't. Usually November and December are always good times to buy. Like if you have cash on hand, it's a great time to buy because those are when things are at its cheapest. Now, for the past like 3 years or so, it hasn't been like that because, obviously we had COVID and everything went sky high. So, December, November weren't like that at all. But normally, which it was like this past November and December, prices were really low. And I've been watching trends and graphs and stuff like that. Same books, like high-end, Silver Age keys and stuff like that were selling for really cheap. And then all of a sudden now they're back up much higher than they were a couple months ago. So remember that. November, December, always a good time. Why? People are using their extra income to go on vacations, buy presents, have family over, all that kind of stuff. So their attention is not on comics. And, just take some of those people out, just things just go a little bit cheaper. Now the new year has started. People with their, if you have X amount of extra income every single month, and that has to go to holidays, January comes around, you don't really got much. So, and I've seen that in my business because always December and November are terrible months for my business, always, except over those weird years. Like I said, I've been doing this for 14 years almost. And January is always like a really big year or a big month. And I'm seeing that right now as well. A lot of people have been buying stuff starting pretty much the 1st of January. So I've been selling a lot of stuff, which is good. But so that's what I've been seeing. I think overall for 2023, it's going to be hard to predict, but I think we'll see some books go up. We'll see some books go down. The issue is a lot of books have went really low already. And I think there's room for them to go a little bit lower, but it's not going to be bad as 2022. And here's my thing. So if you had a book that was worth like $100 and it dropped, you've seen my videos dropping by like 70%, 80%, 60%. So if it drops by 70%, it's down to like $30. There's no way in hell it's dropping another 70%. So 2023 will not be as bad as 2022. So you might have some books dropping, and they might drop by another 10 or 20%, maybe 30%, but they're not dropping by another 70, 60, 80%. So it's not going to be as bad. So that means the upside for it is going to be a lot greater, if that makes sense. So before, other books, books have dropped 50 to 80%, somewhere in there. Now they'll probably only drop another like 10, 20, 30% from where they're at, because they can't go to zero. They could, but that's not happening. So the upside of them going a little bit higher is probably a lot greater. So I just think overall this is going to be kind of towards the end of the year. Everything I've been reading, towards the end of 2023 is when things are going to pick up. And recessions come in cycles. Most recessions last on average, I think it's like a year and a half. It's like 18 months is the average recession length. We were due for one, so this one could be slightly longer. So I would say, and I know the term of recession is basically, we were in a different kind of recession, not the dictionary term of recession. But everything I've read says we're going into a recession, like different banks and stuff. Obviously, the governments are going to lie, but banks have been saying that we should start going to recession. And then by the end of 2023, 2024 is when things will start looking good again. So I would imagine, comic books are very similar to stocks in how fast, stocks are like almost instantaneously, right? You ever see a stock and it's just like up one day, and then all of a sudden it could shoot up 1,000% one day, and then it could be down if you're doing like penny stocks. Or let's be more realistic, like shoot up like 10%, and then it could be down also 10%. And that's really fast, all within a day. Next would be something like comics, where it trends over multiple months. And then real estate is long. It takes a long time for real estate to react. It's very slow moving to react, like volatility. But stocks are like really, really fast. And, comics are kind of in between a little bit of that. So one thing to look for, watch what the stock market is doing. If you want to see if you look at the stock market now, it's like this. Literally just like that. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it's all this, kind of like what I predicted in 2022. So if you look at the stock market and you say overall, if the stock market is going up over a period of 3 months, let's say, take a quarter, and it's, just going up and down, but it's going up over time, that will give you a good indication on what comics will be doing. And then if it does that for 6 months, going up and down, slowly goes up for like 6 months, that'll be a good indication on how real estate will be doing. So if you want to know, this is kind of like a Financial Fridays. Maybe I'll release it then. Probably not. So that's what I think of 2023. It's a complicated answer. I can't sit here and say, oh, go out and buy everything because it was all super cheap from 2022 and now everything's going to double in price. I'm not going to sit here and say that. I'm also not going to sit here and sell everything because it's going to be like 2022 again and everything's going to go down. I can just go off the information I've been reading. I'm sure there's a lot of smarter people than me out there, but the comic books are going to be very tied to the economy, and basically, I don't know how bad it's going to be. It could be better than what they say it's going to be. It could be worse, and it also depends who you're asking. Some people hide the truth, or they're just too dumb to tell you, and they don't really know. People in power. So that's another hard thing. And it also depends on different policies and things like that. Overall, I think comics will be fine. You don't have to worry. Just look at trends. At one point in 1970, an Action Comics #1 in mint condition was $300. In the 90s, I think the mid 90s, it was worth $50,000. There was an newspaper article, I want to say it was in the 80s that I was reading, and it was in the San Francisco Times. People were blown away that someone paid $2,000 for a Batman 1. If you look at trends, things will always go up. It depends on the book, though. If you look at other books that have high print runs that aren't desired and there's not enough demand to meet the supply, they'll stay the same price forever or near forever. So if you're one of those people that are wondering what you should do if you have your keys and you're like, oh, is it going to go down? Should I sell? I don't know. I can tell you November and December are probably going to be the lowest points for a while. So I imagine the next 3 months, they won't go that low. But it really depends on what's going on outside sources if it will continue to drop, because November, December, I saw some pretty good deals. I look at graphs all the time and numbers, and I was like, dang, that was a good deal. So I don't really see that. I don't know, you're just going to have to kind of wait and see. I feel like if you want a book, I think 2023 is a good time to buy, to be honest. I can't tell you if you're going to get the lowest, but I don't think it's going to go that much lower. And then over time, if you buy the right book, it will go up over time. Just look at the past 100 years almost. That's all the data you need. Look at the past 100 years. Look at the ones that have been going up for the last 100 years. That's all the data that you really need. And then you're like, oh, but comics, blah, blah, blah. You can look at other industries, look at books, like not comic books, just books in general. Look at like stamps, coins, baseball cards, any type of cards, memorabilia, all collectible items, art, all that stuff. It all goes up over time. That's just how it works. Certain ones, not everything. Certain books will be popular and then start fading away. Marvel Superheroes 13 got popular and it started going down. I hadn't seen that book go up at all. It's kind of staying the same. So look at the books that have been popular the last 100 years, and those are the ones that are going up. If you buy those books, I make lists all the time with those books on them, you'll be fine. I wouldn't worry about it. If you bought in right now, you'd be fine. I wouldn't worry. It's going to go down. It could go down a little bit, but I don't think it's going to go down that much. I think towards the end of the year, everything will start looking golden again, and things will go up, and the economy will be doing better, and we'll be having a different conversation this time next year about the future of 2024. I imagine when I have that conversation, it won't be like, I don't know. Like that's the best guess for like 2023, like that. 2024, I imagine if everything I'm reading is correct and everything goes how people think it's going to go, I imagine 2024 will be like, it's going to be a great year. Buy now because it will be worth more by the end of the year, type of thing. So that's all I can say as a comic book dealer. I've been doing this full time. This is my job. Take what I say as a grain of salt. I'm sure you're going to have lots of people on there. You'll have two sides of the coin. You'll have the people that are doom and gloom. Everything's going to fall. Everything's going to crash. You always get those people. And then you get the other people that have ulterior motives like, no, comic books it's going to be, gangbusters. It'll be like 2020 all over again. Get in now, because they have ulterior motives. I'm just trying to give you my honest opinion. I think it's just going to be like, up in the air year. So that's my opinion. Have a great day.